Good morning, everyone. Yesterday I had a very, very energetic day. And you know how I said not every day is going to be this energetic? Well, today is the day. Today's the day that is not going to be so energetic. I was writing in my journal this morning, just saying basically, I need to come back to simple things. Like, I've been like overdoing it, overstimulating myself recently, just doing all kinds of shit, and it just creeps up on me. It doesn't, sometimes I don't know I'm doing it. It's like, it just happens, you know. You get to a point where, like, I was eating cheese and biscuits last night just for no fucking reason at all, not even enjoying it really, just like for the sake of it, just filling the void with nothing. Filling the void with artificial shit to keep me going. But then I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And then I just sat in a chair doing nothing for like the next 2 hours, trying to convince everyone to get off their phones and just engage, or just de-stimulate enough where they could engage with like just us, you know, people, and the environment, the natural environment. But it's, to get to that point is requires kind of going through some pain. Like, for me anyway, like if I've been overstimulating myself, then to come back down to the ground level, as it were, it just requires like sitting in that boredom, the pain, or whatever, however you interpret it. And those signals, like, the signals will come up and be like, oh, go on your phone. You know, that's a good way to avoid boredom. There's like a program in everyone that's like, maybe this is because of all the options that we have nowadays to stimulate ourselves. There's like a program that just wants us to avoid boredom at all costs. But I have found my own experience that boredom is a wonderful thing. Boredom sparks so much creativity within me. It's like you start seeing things with a different pair of eyes. I don't know how to describe it, but like, if I'm really bored, I'll start looking around. I'm like shivering because it's fucking cold outside and I've only just come outside for like the first time in the morning. So we're in this together. But if I am really, really bored in my house, I'll start looking around and seeing all the things that I could do, all the ways I could improve things, ways that I can rearrange furniture and make it look nicer. Or I even start getting inspired to just tidy up. And tidying up is another very good thing, for me anyway. It's another one of these simple things. Even doing this is quite simple. It's not really overly stimulating. Maybe when I'm on caffeine. I mean, I've had a green tea this morning, but green tea is a different vibe. I like the contrast. I like not being the same every day. I like being more. Now this is something that really rings my bells. I like being like, I don't know how to put it, but it's like, instead of trying to put myself into a box, I like to let myself kind of go completely, let myself just be whatever I naturally want to be on a day-to-day basis, but learn how to adapt to the day, as it were. Like, have a sort of intuition or strategy. I don't even know. It's maybe a combination of strategy and intuition to kind of be able to deal with whatever the day holds. Because I don't really like to structure things. I don't really like to have a morning routine as such. I like to wake up and really feel the vibe of the day, and not just like rush into doing yoga or doing meditation or whatever it may be. I don't really like to have routines like that. I like to know what my body and mind need in every moment, sort of thing. I like to, instead of stressing about the future or sticking to a routine or something, I like to be able to put all of my mental capacity and energy into this moment, so that I don't have to think about the past or the future, what I've done or what I should do. Instead, I'd rather cultivate a connection with myself, with my mind and body, that's so clear that I know what I need in any one moment. And like this morning, I woke up and I thought, okay, I have definitely overdone it these past few days. I have been going crazy. And in that headspace, I know that I need to just do simple things. As it happened, I did do yoga first thing, and I usually do my own yoga, so I don't usually do watch a video to do yoga, because I kind of like just being able to go at my own pace and whatnot. Probably should have done that today, but I didn't end up doing that. I love this guy on YouTube, or it's a channel called Breathe and Flow. It's this guy, I think he's German, and he does pretty good yoga videos. I've learned a lot from him. I like his sort of attitude towards it, and I like the fact that it's not easy. Like even like the beginner videos are like, what the fuck, this is crazy. Like he'll just do like a handstand or something, but it kind of teaches you, like, you might take things like that as like, oh, what the fuck, he's just showing off, or like trying to make you feel insecure about what you can and can't do. But actually, it's very wise, because that's something that you have to get over in yourself. Just because someone is ahead of you, it doesn't mean anything at all, because there is no ahead or behind. There is only where you are right now. And it's about accepting where you are and not comparing it to where other people are. And that's the crux of it. Good morning. But I think it's really interesting, the whole practice of yoga, because it highlights a lot of these things. Things like comparison, judging yourself. All of these things come up in a yoga practice, especially when there's a teacher who's supposedly, like, you know, really, really, really great yogi or whatever. You've got the temptation to like compare yourself and think, fuck, he's like, I'm never going to get to that level or whatever. I don't want to go on about this because it's quite simple in its essence, like what it's getting at. But yeah, oh wowza, I love the sun. I do love the sun, and we don't get much of it. We don't get much of it in the winter in the UK. We have some very dark days in this country, and I like to make the most of the non-dark days. This is what I mean by, rather than having like a regimented way of life, I like to be more adaptable. Like, I know that the seasons change, so if it was like minus 20 outside, it might be a different prospect making a video like this where I'm just casually walking through the woods. I'd be like fucking shivering and it would be a trip. Or on a summer's day, it would change the vibe completely. I might I don't know, do something totally different. I don't want these videos to be the same thing either. I might end up going on the same walk a number of times, and to be honest, look, I'm just doing what I love doing. I just love connecting with people and nature and connecting with myself and talking, but also having time alone. And this literally ticks all of those boxes. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm gonna switch hands because why not? I've been using this hand and it's like, well, why don't I use my left hand? Left and right hands are really interesting. I don't know if anyone else has this, but I've noticed something. I don't know if it's real or I'm just making it all up in my head, but I feel like my right hand and my left hand are just good at different things. Like, okay, when I'm playing, here's an example. When I'm playing my didgeridoo, sometimes I use like a shaker, and I've noticed subtly when I use the shaker in my right hand, I'm more, I start playing the didgeridoo in a more mechanical way and less, I start being less creative. When I use the shaker in my left hand, I start being more creative. Did I say more creative with the, I don't remember, but less creative with the right hand, more creative with the left hand, but the left hand is somewhat harder to coordinate. It's weird, it's a weird one. Like, I can write better with my right than my left, but my left might come up with something more nuanced. And, you know, it's still a perception that handwriting is good or bad. I mean, just because it's legible or not doesn't mean that it's not art in itself. It's like, surely painting with your left hand, if you have a dominant right hand, surely painting some artwork with your left hand might be a good exercise, because it's still, something's going to come out and it's still going to be a valid piece of art. So I like things like that. I like kind of going against my perceptions because often something interesting comes out. With juggling, it's like, oh, it's so interesting. Like, I used to find it really easy with my right hand and almost impossible with my left hand. And now it's gotten to a point where it's like the same, it feels the same. So I don't know what's happened in my brain, but I do feel like a different person, like for doing all these weird things that go against what feels natural. Like, even for me, walking barefoot has felt like the most, I've done it for like just over 2 years now, and it's felt like the most unnatural thing I could ever do. Like, it felt so alien to begin with. It's not like I'm some nature guy who's like fucking on that shit. I'm not on that shit. I'm like, I'll give you a backstory about my upbringing. I was a gamer. I used to play World of Warcraft. I used to build computers. I used to do programming. I used to want to make games. I used to make games. I was a very kind of what you call a nerd, I suppose. I was very nerdy. And I wasn't that outdoorsy. Although I grew up on a little farm, I wasn't very outdoorsy. I had a tree house, but I didn't really appreciate it. I didn't really appreciate it like I think a lot of kids would appreciate a tree house. I mean, I liked it, it was cool, but you know, I'd be straight back indoors on World of Warcraft. And that was kind of how I grew up. I wasn't popular at school. Morning. I wasn't popular at school. Everyone knew me though. I was like that kid that everyone knew, but I wasn't like the cool kid. I was like popular for being like really weird. Like, everyone, like, throughout all the years would know my name. They'd be like, oh, that's George. But it was probably not for good reasons. I was like, and I probably fed into it as well on some level. I was always like, probably, you know, I was talking about this with a friend yesterday. There are certain types of people, me included, who kind of have this subconscious will to sort of become what people are projecting onto you, around you. And I think maybe that's all human beings, because we're so adaptable. It's kind of what creates social cohesion on some level, probably, this ability to fall in line. Now, I don't fall in line in a lot of ways, but when it comes to people, I'm very much about, not consciously but subconsciously, I kind of want to appeal to the people around me. I want to be the best for the people around me, and that's probably not a bad instinct, but it has been a bad instinct sometimes because some people have the will to control you. And I've experienced this on personal levels, on societal levels, all levels. And it's really, really important to me to have some kind of solid grounding, some kind of reference point that's outside of the norm to effectively know where the line is, to know, okay, is this a good move? What's going on here? Am I falling into a trap? Am I being controlled by someone who doesn't have my best interests at heart? All those kinds of things come into it. But the whole barefoot thing and me going against the grain, like I haven't cut my hair or my beard or any bodily hair for like 2 years, actually the same time. That's another interesting thing, but we'll come back to that. But having all these things, these practices like the meditation, like the yoga, not wearing shoes, it helps me to explore the world in its entirety, but know that I'm not going to be led down a path that wouldn't be good for me. And I don't claim to know what's good or bad for me, but based on prior experiences, I do have a little bit of a sense of, okay, I know where this is going, and maybe I should steer clear of that. Maybe that's not in my best interest, sort of thing. Maybe there's another course of action I could take that really would be in my best interest. And time is limited, so you do ultimately have to try to make good decisions, or I do. But coming back to what I wanted to come back to, I think what I wanted to come back to was my short-term memory is not the best in the world for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I live so much in the moment. It's like it's shut off in certain ways because it wants me to just explore the moment. I don't know. I wanted to talk about hair and feet. Hair and feet really interest me because they're so chaotic in their nature, but they're like at the opposite ends of your body. Your hair is on your head, your feet are on the ground. I find that interesting. Nature and natural things are just full of meaning, full of profound wisdom, and I don't know how to interpret it all the time, but it's up for interpretation, and so I'm gonna try, because it keeps me going. It's fun. It's fucking fun. And I wanted to clarify that I'm not making these videos out of desperation, out of validation seeking, out of anything other than I like making vibrations out of my mouth. I like philosophizing. I like the fact that making these videos may result in making connections with people who are not in my local village. I want to branch out. That's ultimately what I want to do. I want to branch out. I don't want to be having the same conversations with the same people in 50 years. I know that sounds harsh, but I want to move on. I want to embrace change. I want to actually get somewhere in life. Because if you don't move, life just becomes, well, for me, I am someone who has ants in my pants. I have to move. I have to be experiencing new things. And if I do something and I find myself repeating it over and over again, I lose interest so quickly. I might come back to it as a reference point, but if something feels like it's just sameness over and over again, I tend to lose interest. And maybe that's something I should work on. And I do. I have tried to work on that, because of course there is an element of sameness in everything. And it doesn't have to be seen as such a bad thing. Just like, I will always probably use my voice in a similar way. I'm always going to sound the same. I'm probably going to look similar. My mind is probably going to work in a similar way to as it's always done. I sometimes think that I've transcended my old ways, as it were, and then I wake up one morning, I'm like, fuck, I literally feel like the way I felt 2 years ago. Like this morning, I felt kind of like a little bit, out of it. Like, it reminded me like of the way I felt when I was really mentally ill, and that was kind of scary. It's like, fuck, am I going backwards? But it's important. This is what I mean by adaptability. I'm coming back to this one concept, because you cannot predict how you're going to feel or what the day is going to hold or any of that shit. You can't. There's always going to be interruption to what you want to do. And that's an important thing. And that's another point I'd like to come back to, if I can remember it. But I don't even remember what I was talking about a second ago. So let's talk about interruption and opportunity. It's easy to feel like when something comes in the way of your agenda that you've been interrupted, and it should be seen as a bad thing and ultimately avoided in future. But I have experienced some wonderful things. Actually, some of the most profound and interesting experiences of my life have happened with what started out as feeling like an interruption, feeling like something that was getting in the way. So it's as simple as like this morning, I was trying to make my green tea, and my mum's like wiping the floor, and she's like, let me just finish wiping the floor and then you can make your green tea. And it comes down to such a minute level, and it's like, maybe it's not such a bad thing. Maybe we could all learn to embrace being interrupted a little bit more, and then it ceases to be an interruption and it just becomes part of the story. It's neither here nor there. And this comes back to perception as well. We can have an idea about something, like you're in the middle of doing your work, you're working, and someone comes along and they just want to talk to you, or they want to tell you about what they're doing. And you could say, go away, I'm busy, I'm working. But I think, based on personal experience, that those interruptions can be turned into opportunities. Opportunities to bring people closer together, opportunities to broaden your horizons. When I'm writing and someone interrupts me, I don't see it as an interruption anymore. I embrace it. If I get a phone call and I'm in the middle of writing, I'm in a flow of flow states, I don't see it as an interruption anymore, because I take that call, or I listen to that person, my mum or my girlfriend, whatever it may be, and I give my full attention to the interruption. And then I go back to my writing, and I have new ideas. I feel slightly more soft and malleable, and less like I'm holding on to something. And for me, when I feel like I'm holding on to something, it feels awful. I don't know if that's just me or if that's everyone, but when I have this sense that I'm really striving for something, it feels bloody stressful. It feels like this doesn't feel like a life that I want to be living. I want to be able to feel soft and malleable all the time. I don't want to have that perception of an interruption. I'd rather see it as like, oh, this is happening, and see it just with a light-hearted kind of sense. I tell you what, we're at 25 minutes, but I'm gonna go to 30 minutes. Yesterday I recorded a 30-minute video after the 25-minute video I made, but I thought to myself, rather than posting that one today, I'm just not gonna post it at all, because that was recorded on the same day, and today is a different day, and it's kind of like the moment's gone, you know? Everyone has moved on since yesterday, and maybe it might be valuable, it might be fucking great, it might be full of wisdom, whatever, good vibes, but today is a new day, and whatever happens today is going to be probably more relevant to today than whatever happened yesterday. And I'm not in the business of just uploading and uploading. I'm more in the business of kind of giving you guys a reference point. Someone who lays their cards on the table and says, look at me, I'm not perfect. I go up and I go down, and that's me from day to day. I've never felt like a consistent kind of person, and I wouldn't like to feel like that anyway. That wouldn't be very fun. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful life. It's a beautiful life. I don't know where that came from. Oh, baby, baby, baby. Sometimes I just feel the airspace because I like doing that. I also like being quiet. You know, a lot of people accuse me of being quiet and not saying anything, and it's like, well, I learn a lot, an awful lot from doing nothing and being silent in all situations. When I'm with people, when I'm on my own, it's actually been my greatest gift, because when I was a kid, I was not quiet. I was not silent. I was always making noises, talking, shouting, being crazy, and I got to like 18 years old and just felt like I hadn't learned anything about anything. I still felt like I was so in the dark about myself and people and the world, and it's like, what the fuck have I been doing for the past 18 years? And so I learned how to listen and how to be silent, how to feel comfortable enough in my own skin that I don't need to always project. And that is, for me, the most useful skill I can have, because I can project and project and project all day, every day. And there's a time for projection. There is a time, like right now. I'm making this video and it feels good. And maybe it's helpful. Maybe. I don't know. But silence is a beautiful thing, because no one knows what's going on inside your head. You may almost feel, I felt when I was a kid that it's like people could like look into my mind or something, like, oh, I need to watch what's going on in my mind to not expose myself. But actually your mind is private to you. I've heard this shit about how fourth dimensional beings can like see into your mind and shit, but that's for another video. But when you're silent, you can listen to someone really carefully and watch their facial expressions and everything about that person really carefully. And maybe because they are not someone who can do that, they don't realize how much data about that interaction you are processing. And you'll be called quiet and boring or whatever, it doesn't matter. You will start to get a good idea of people, who's good for you, who's not good for you, and what is good for you in general. Because that is important. We're all different, we're all unique, and we've got to figure out what is good for our unique blueprint. There's no one on the internet, not even me, can tell you how to live, or what you need to do right now, or what you need to do when you're feeling any certain kind of way. It's all you. It's all self-exploration. And that should be the most inspiring thing you will ever hear. Because if it wasn't self-exploration and it was all about listening to people, that would be like being in the military or something. We'd be like Nazis if we all thought that listening to people at every turn is going to be the way forward. You've got to listen to people carefully, listen to everything, watch everything carefully, but ultimately listen to what's going on inside while all that's happening. Feel the relationship between you and the world, don't just be fixated on the world, have a balance. You want to come first? Yeah. Hello. 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 I'm just making a video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You want to say hi to the camera?
I can say hi to the camera. Hello.
Oh, perfect.
It's a lovely day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Later.
See ya. I'll tell you what, we'll go to 35 minutes. Because it's a nice round number. We've already gotten to 31 minutes. So we may as well go to 35 minutes. And I'm sure there's more to talk about. There's always more to talk about. One of the things that I think is most important nowadays is having good conversations. It's something that we have lost over time. It's almost like conversations are becoming more of a token gesture, more of a thing that we kind of do under duress, like, oh, do I have to? And in the back of everyone's mind, they're like thinking, oh, I want to get back to my PlayStation or my phone. I had that. Or I want to go smoke weed. I had that. But I have kind of mustered up the courage to ignore those signals and to really go into conversations, really listen to people, give people my full attention, give everything my full attention. And then over time, it's actually changed my brain, where I don't value anything outside of having a conversation. I don't see anything outside of what I'm doing now, particularly. I have thoughts and feelings and all that shit, it's not shit, it's very important to listen to your thoughts and feelings, but not to take them too seriously. But ultimately, life is very sexy when you can have a cup of tea and enjoy the cup of tea for just a cup of tea, or when you can have a conversation and enjoy the conversation for just a conversation. Not like having an angle, not trying to get something out of it, not as a means to an end, you know. When I first started smoking weed, coming back to weed because it's a good metaphor, I would smoke that joint to get high, as a means to an end. And it just became so boring after a while. But then when I started to embrace it, when I embraced it, I started enjoying the thing itself, enjoying the process itself, enjoying looking at my weed in a jar, smelling it and putting it in the grinder and grinding it up to the right consistency, putting it in a joint, rolling a perfect joint, and then sitting in my chair and really savoring it and just experiencing all the experiences that are available in that moment. And just being open to new experience and not being afraid of uncomfortable feelings. And then over time, I just started to enjoy it all the time. I started smoking less, and I started to really enjoy it whenever I did smoke, which happened to be every day. But when I say I smoked less, I mean before I was smoking like all day, every day, because it just felt like if I didn't keep smoking, it was, you know, something terrible was going to happen. But we are coming to 35 minutes, so I'm going to leave it there for today and wish you all good luck for the rest of the day. Whenever you're watching this, whatever you're doing, good luck and good vibes, good energy. There is good energy coming out of this video. I have very, very small hands. I used to have the biggest hands in my class at school, but they've stayed the same since I was about 10 years old, and now I have like really girly hands, and it's funny. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. That was totally unnecessary. Goodbye for now.